All right, what's going on, everyone? Let's take a look at a couple shorts here. We're going to start out with one fresh out of DARPA. That's a super secretive place where they come up with all of the new advanced military technology here in the U.S. So this is called the Mobile Force Protection, and it's an anti-drone system, small enough to be mounted on things like we see here, a Humvee or even a small boat out at sea, close to the shore is the idea. So they're supposed to intercept enemy drones. They do that by launching their own drone that we see here. It speeds out to about 1 kilometer away where it links up with the enemy drone and matches its speed and direction, at which point it fires this pink substance. We'll let it play through here again so you can see it. It's like a cloud of pink silly string, I heard it described as, but what it's actually made up of, I guess, is still a secret. And that gets stuck in the rotors of the drone. So you can see it's still sitting there, but then the rotor seize up and it forces the drone to crash. So whether it's a relatively fixed-wing drone or more of a quadcopter, they've all got propellers. So this substance, I guess, is enough to bring a drone down. This isn't new. This has been out for a couple years, but I guess hasn't been widely fielded as of yet. The title here kind of gives this all away from Funker 360. Russians are wearing fake ballistic helmets into battle. I feel like I've seen a few of these. It's crazy. And the guy's going to test it with his fist. Spoiler alert. God dang. It doesn't do anything at that point, right? I mean, it's like a bike helmet. If you fall off a tank or you hit your head on something, I guess it's better than nothing. But in terms of shrapnel or, of course, any sort of small arms, it's not going to do it. That seems like the best way to test it out. God dang, some of these guys are absolutely crazy. Leave the sound on for this one. I think it's interesting.
We know Putin wasn't prepared for an actual invasion into Ukraine. Any military general with an IQ above room temperature can tell you that in order to invade, you need a 3-to-1 advantage. Before the Ukrainian war started, Russia had around 250,000 troops near the
I think 250,000 is a little bit on the high side, just for what it's worth. Now that we're sitting here middle of October 2022, I think that number's a little high. Most reasonable estimates I've seen have been closer to 150,000, which actually goes makes this argument even more.
the borders. Ukraine itself had around the same at the time. So
I think that's a little bit high. I think Ukraine did not quite have 250,000. I don't think they had a quarter million men under arms at the time of the invasion, but we'll come back to that.
unless Putin was a complete idiot, he wasn't actually expecting the Ukrainians to fight a real war when he started his special military operation. Why do we...
I think that's a valid valid explanation. Again, I do think the Ukrainian numbers in this slide are a little high, and I think the Russian numbers are also a little bit high. Not taking into account the fact that Russia was trying to do this whole thing with what they had available at that time, and Ukraine had the ability, of course, their land is being invaded, they can mobilize very quickly and very easily compared to Russia, so they were able to put a lot more troops into the fight much earlier. So the initial numbers, I think, were a little bit off, but either way, I think this is a valid assessment. I mean, even here in the Pentagon in the United States, the estimates were that Ukraine wouldn't last but a couple days. I don't think it's crazy that the reason we saw the small number of Russian troops relatively to be able to take a country the size of Ukraine was because they expected capitulation of the Ukrainian government, maybe of the military, to get to the negotiating table, whatever those terms might be, very early. All right, I know somebody's going to correct me on this if I say that this is the most powerful non-nuclear bomb in the world. I believe it is the most powerful non-nuclear bomb in the United States. I'm pretty sure, I've seen some commentary about something, this is called the MOAB, the mother of all bombs, there we go. I've seen some commentary about the father of all bombs, which is a Russian munition, same type of deal. But yeah, let me know. Which one is it, mother of all bombs or father of all bombs? Anyways, this is new. This is not new as in the last 20 years. There was something used in the Vietnam War called the Daisy Cutter, which was similar, and that was even used up in the early days of Afghanistan, maybe in Iraq even after 2003. But this one here, the mother of all bombs, there haven't been that many of them built. They have to be pulled out of the back of the C-130 like you see there, kind of an airburst munition, and the only one of these deployed in combat, to my knowledge, was in 2017 in eastern Afghanistan against Islamic State fighting positions. You know, I wish I had a good answer for what we're seeing here. I don't. You see these tank trails that we've got an armored vehicle coming down the road. and what looks like, individual ditches, individual trenches, kind of look like graves. If we're going to be morbid, this is in Ukraine. These Ukrainian soldiers, you can see the flag on his sleeve there. This reminds me, if so, trying to figure out exactly what's happening here. This is not a combat environment. This is training, maybe setting up a defensive position. But this looks like something you'd see out of World War II Japan, where the Japanese didn't have the standoff ability in mass to be able to take on Allied armor. You'd see them trying to get very close to the tanks to strap explosives or mines or even blow themselves up at times. But with the quantity of anti-tank missiles that have gone into Ukraine, I can't understand why somebody would want to get this close or try to get this close to destroy a tank. And even if you don't have all of those fancy new missiles, there are a ton of anti-tank mines all across that country that can be laid right in those tracks. You lay one after the other, they're going to miss one eventually. If you look at the terrain, obviously there's a reason the tank is using this trail rather than just going off-road somewhere else. On the other hand, to play devil's advocate, if this is some sort of offensive maneuver, I have no idea why your infantry would be out in front of the tanks with enough time to dig foxholes, to dig coffins, we'll call them. Not coffins, graves. There we go. In between where the tank is going to drive so they can jump out behind the tank. So I wish I had some awesome explanation as to what we're seeing here, but I don't. I'm pretty confused by this. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. We'll see you all next time.